In 1846, a legendary genius was born. His name was Wilhelm Maybach. He had the spirit of a relentless warrior and the soul of an innovative inventor. His mind was driven by math and physics, so naturally, he became a masterful engineer. While historians may have not given his fair share of glory for his contribution to the invention of the first prototype modern gasoline combustion engine, the automobile giant Mercedes-Benz did, and named the notoriously expensive and luxurious car brand Mercedes-Maybach after him. This is his intriguing story. Wilhelm Maybach was born to a very poor German family in Heilbronn, a beautiful city on the Neckar River known for its gently rolling hills, picturesque views with old historical buildings. As a child, he suffered many hardships after both of his parents died within a year of each other when was barely 10 years of age. He and his 5 siblings were heading toward doom. Luckily, his relatives placed an announcement in the local newspaper about the death of his parents and the 6 orphans left behind. The announcement got the attention of Gustav Werner, the founder of a philanthropic institution dedicated to rescuing orphans and education in the district of Reutlingen. Werner noticed that Maybach was interested in mechanical objects and math, so he decided to send him to one of the institution's funded schools that specializes in engineering workshops. At the mere age of 15, Maybach became an apprentice as a technical draftsman, and to his luck, the legendary Gottlieb Daimler became an organizer of some of the workshops in 1863. And that's when they met, and an intriguing revolution in the automobile industry began. In 1872, Daimler began working at the firm Deutz AG, which was a German stationary gas engines manufacturer, based in Porz, Cologne. It was also partially owned by Nikolaus Otto. Naturally, Daimler wanted his best apprentice next to him, and thus Maybach soon joined them as chief designer. Nikolaus Otto was a famous German engineer, accredited with the development of the compressed charge internal combustion engine, but Daimler and Maybach had better minds. In fact, they were the force behind Otto's best engine, which made him very envious of the two to the point of pure hatred. In 1882, Otto fired Daimler and merely gave him 112 gold marks in Deutz AG shares in compensation for his and Maybach's patents. And of course, Maybach resigned soon after and followed his friend Daimler. Soon after, Maybach and Daimler started their own engine-building workshop in the town of Cannstatt. In 1883, they patented one of the first successful high-speed internal combustion engines and developed a carburetor that made it possible to use gasoline as fuel. Their first experiment with a gasoline-fired engine was performed on a motorcycle, perhaps the first in the world. In 1884, they built more improved versions of the engine. A flywheel was included in one of the engines. Their latest designs were smaller and lighter than engines by any of the other inventors of the time. Their new engine was called the grandfather clock engine, simply because it resembled a large pendulum clock. In early 1886, Daimler and Maybach decided to secretly order an American version carriage from the coach builder Wilhelm Wimpf and Sohn. Unfortunately, they did not show it to the public after they turned it into an automobile powered by a gasoline combustion engine until November 1886. Exactly 3 months after the Benz motor wagon was awarded the patent as the first true automobile. In 1886, they mounted one of their upgraded engines in a 15-foot-long boat and achieved a speed of 6 knots or 11 kilometers per hour. The boat was called Neckar, after the river where it was tested. In 1988, they achieved another magnificent milestone, after their engine went airborne and technically speaking powered what can only be called the first airship, which was a massive air balloon. It is true that dirigible balloon crafts existed before the Daimler engine, but these dirigible balloon engines were propelled by hand-operated engines that were designed by Dr. Friedrich Hermann Wölfert of Leipzig. In 1889, Maybach and Daimler joined the upper echelons of wealth, less than 2 years after they sold their first foreign licenses for their engines in 1887. A good portion of their new wealth was also attributed to excellent revenues from the Neckar boat sales. In June 1887, Daimler and Maybach bought a 3,000 square meter land lot on the outskirts of Zeilberg Hills of Cannstatt and set up a manufacturing workshop. In 1890, the Daimler Motorengesellschaft, abbreviated DMG, was established and had more than 100 employees. Daimler managed the commercial issues of DMG while Maybach headed the design department. In 1889, Maybach and Daimler produced their first car. They chose to build it from scratch, rather than buying pre-made chassis from coach builders. They called it the Daimler Steel Wheel Automobile when it was publicly launched by both inventors in Paris in October 1889. The following few years were rather chaotic for Daimler and Maybach, even as DMG continued to expand, selling engines from Moscow to New York. They still financially struggled. This led Daimler to become convinced that DMG can only survive, grow, and innovate by merging with one of the cash-rich industrial giants. Soon, Daimler struck deals with the German financier Max von Dutenhofer, known for the production of the first smokeless gunpowder, and William Lorenz, a former munitions maker. To the dismay of Daimler and Maybach, the new management of DMG insisted that the company merge with Deutz AG, which was partially owned by their old nemesis Nikolaus Otto. Naturally, this led to strongly heated debates and objections. In the end, Maybach was rejected as a member of the board of management and left the company in February 1891. However, he and Daimler continued to work together. With some financial help from Daimler, Maybach went to establish a workshop in the ballroom of the former Hermann Hotel and Winter Garden. As a result of this indirect collaboration, a new attention-grabbing advanced engine was developed in 1894. The engine was used in the Phoenix automobile dubbed Double Phaeton. It was able to reach the speed of 24 kilometers per hour. This engine by Maybach became the backbone of the entire global automobile industry. In 1900, Emil Jelinek, the successful Austrian dealer and racing driver who was a strong admirer of Maybach's work, decided to encourage Maybach to design a race car with new specifications, and in return, he would buy a shipment of 36 automobiles for 550,000 gold marks. As expected, Maybach was up to the task, and within months the prototype was finished. The new car was named Mercedes, after Jelinek's 10-year-old daughter. Maybach's Mercedes was superiorly impressive and attracted the rich masses from across Europe and beyond. From 1901 to 1930, the skies over Europe were ruled by the Zeppelin airships, which were powered by engines designed by Maybach and his son Karl. In 1921, Maybach decided to begin producing Maybach limousines. The first model W3 was featured at the 1921 Automobile Exposition in Berlin. Wilhelm Maybach died at the age of 83 in Stuttgart on the 29th of December 1929. The death of the great legend Maybach marked the end of a revolutionary era that changed civilization. His company, Maybach Motorenbau GmbH, continued to operate and innovate under the control of his son, Karl Maybach. In 1960, Maybach began to manufacture large engines for Daimler-Benz under a license agreement and entered into a phase of strong collaboration with Daimler-Benz. A few years later, it changed its name to Maybach Mercedes-Benz Motorenbau GmbH and became 80% owned by Daimler-Benz. Thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe, and hit the bell icon